the world is changing, and I think human-centered, people-first marketing is becoming ever more prevalent.
So the evolution of this kind of personal brand concept that's sort of come into play in the last few years.
100%. And it's now, for me, it's all about EGC. Authentically, it's the only way brands of today can truly engage their audience. And now I think there's going to be a big shift where people start to recognise, yeah, we do need to put our people front and centre, because it's them who are selling our business, it's them that people are buying from. So if you don't, you're going to miss a trick, because someone else will be, and then your potential customers will be buying from them and not you.
What would you suggest them sort of get started on this? How do they really nail this?
Yeah, so it's weird because we kind of do marketing for marketing tech companies.
Yeah.
So I've sort of picked the hardest, we've got to be extra good because we're working with like the best marketing tech companies in the world. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a really interesting space at the moment because the world is changing, and I think human-centered, people-first marketing is becoming ever more prevalent. There's been lots of talk about personal branding and things like that, but we're kind of rebranding it at Street as, people-powered marketing, because it's not just, not always just about the founders or, the people leading the business, upping their personal brand, but it's all about now the new term that we're coining, or not, we're not coining it, but that has been coined, is EGC, which is all about employee-generated content, which is super important.
Because people think of personal brand, they do think of kind of founder LinkedIn content or Instagram, or sort of the hero content. But it's really interesting, like, so these bigger marketing tech companies and big companies generally are really leaning into this.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm not sure if they're leaning into it. We're pulling them in because I think it's harder. Like, it's when you're a founder of a business and you know that it's important to put yourself out there, and it's been incredibly important for me throughout the whole of me running Street. It's where all of our leads and new business opportunities come from. It makes it much easier for me to convert opportunities because people think they already know me, pre me walking into the room. But actually, I think it's a bit harder for companies because employees move about, right? Like, they may be with you for 2 months, hopefully a bit longer than that, 2-3 years.
That's a quite aggressive churn there.
Very aggressive churn. No, not 2 months, 2-3 years. And then they may go elsewhere, right? So it feels scary to invest in them, I guess, to a certain extent. But I think authentically, it's the only way brands of today can truly engage their audience. And yes, some, scale-up startups may be able to do that with their founder and their senior leadership team or shareholders. But actually, the reality is people buy from people. So I think there's going to be a big shift to EGC over the next few months, years, where people start to recognise, we do need to put our people front and centre, because it's them who are selling our business. It's them, whether we're a product or a service, it's them that people are buying from. So if you don't, you're going to miss a trick because someone else will be, and then your potential customers will be buying from them and not you.
So it's kind of like the evolution of this kind of personal brand concept that's sort of come into play in the last few years.
Yeah, 100%. And it's now, for me, it's all about EGC.
Okay, so let's say scale-up founders, they like the idea of EGC. They've been maybe a bit dubious about personal brand, haven't leaned into it. What would you suggest them sort of get started on this? How do they really nail this?
Yeah, I think, look, you don't have to dive straight into EGC. One of the simplest things that we do, it's thinking more about, who are the people that we have within our business that have, got some serious value and education to give to our potential customers, clients, however you talk about the people that you sell to. Because generally there's going to be thought leaders within your business that can help your customers, right? They've either designed a product or a service, or they're leading something within the business that is helpful, that is, usually most businesses, there's not many that don't, unless you're a charity or something else a little bit left field, is you're usually, providing a service or a product that is helping someone solve a problem that they have. So you're going to have people within your business that can talk about the problem that you solve, that whatever your technology solve is, whatever whatever it might be. So I think kind of highlighting who those people are and starting to talk to them, about, okay, what is it? What are we seeing with our customers right now? How are we helping them the most? What are the pain points that we're struggling the most with? That's a really good starting point, just to understand the value exchange. I mean, everyone should know this, right, as a business anyway, but I think sometimes it gets lost and forgotten. What is the value exchange? What is the thing that people need right now that are keeping them up at night that we can help them with? And that is different if you're selling a, I don't know, face moisturizer to if you're, providing a service like a podcast studio, that, maybe people might want to hire off you. So what are the things that, we're solving and how are we helping them? And that's really, starting to speak to those people and understand what their thoughts are and kind of uncovering that. Sometimes we're very heavy on video content and events at the moment. That's where we see the most traction. But I think just speaking to those people initially to kind of go, what should our go-to-market messages be? What are the pain points for our customers? Speaking to your customers, what are the pain points? What are the things that you're helping them with? Because once you've got that defined, then everything should map on from it quite easily.
So it's not just sticking someone in front of a camera. I'm thinking
Yes.
Howard, the dancing banker from a few years ago.
Yes.
That's not what you necessarily mean by EGC.
No. I mean, look, it could be, but I think, and it doesn't always have to be solving a problem. But I think more often in the world of B2B, definitely, you've got to be highlighting some form of value exchange. Then how you show up is up to you. I think again, you need to show up not too awkward. In fact, I recorded a podcast for my podcast this morning, and I'm not going to name the name, but it's actually one of my clients. Not one of my clients that I work directly with, because they're a huge company, but they'd gone in to do a podcast, and the guy was like, it was so awkward, it was scripted, it was too scripted. They were sat there reading off a script, and it just was like, I wouldn't want to put that content out for them. And I think it's about showing up in a human way, however that might be, whether that's on video. If you've got someone that's not comfortable in front of the camera, don't shove them in front of a camera. If they're going to be better writing content, let them write the content. You can't force someone to do something that isn't right for them. As much as people might think that that's the right thing to do, or videos trending, or podcasts are trending, or whatever it might be. Don't force yourself. Do what feels comfortable to you, because if the content's good and it's valuable and it's funny, or whatever it is that you're trying to create, it will do well regardless. So stop. I think everyone wants to jump onto trends or what algorithms like right now. I would almost not do that. I would really focus on what's the right fit for the business, or for the person at the business.
No, I remember talking to sort of a connection of mine who'd run the marketing agency. I said, "Oh, how do you hack LinkedIn? How do you really drive engagement?" He said, "I've got a secret for you. It's actually create engaging content."
Yeah,
it's like, don't worry about trying to game the system. Just if you create good stuff.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. And it's worth paying attention to what's doing well. Video definitely is on the rise, and although LinkedIn have actually recently removed, I don't know if you noticed, they launched a video feed. They've now removed the video feed.
Have they?
They have, but that's because I think they're trialing how video will best work on the platform. I loved the video feed, so I'm a bit sad it's gone, and I'm hopeful it may well come back. But the algorithms are always changing, so don't pay attention, but don't change your strategy to fit the algorithm. Develop a strategy that is giving valuable content in a way that feels good, relevant, easy for you as a business to do continually, and try different things. Sometimes do video, sometimes do written content, sometimes do static posts. I think the highest performing content on LinkedIn, although definitely video is hugely on the rise, SlideShares.
Yeah.
Those, because think about it, it's obvious they get more impressions because people are continually clicking on them. So therefore, LinkedIn likes impressions, as does any, social media platform. So if it's got more impressions because people are clicking because there's 20 slides to click through, that's going to do better than a static post. So you can gamify it a little bit, but I think most of the time you just need, not gamify, hack it. But most of the time, just produce good stuff.
The starting point is understand this value exchange point. So know why you're even showing up, why someone should care what you're talking about. Identify who is best placed to talk to that need. It may not be you as the founder, it might be someone in your team. And then decide sort of how you're speaking. If it's sort of on a podcast? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it written? Is it video? But that's almost the sequence. Like, start with why someone should care, figure out who's best to speak to it, and then how they most effectively speak to it.
Yeah, work out the most comfortable and easy way for you to show up that's repeatable, because probably the next biggest hack, next to the biggest one being provide helpful, valuable content, is be consistent. Don't just disappear. I think, unfortunately, so many people think they can show up, they try something, they do it for a month or two, they go, it's not working. No, because most things take 6 months, 9 months, a year before you will actually see any traction in terms of getting, fantastic new business results through your efforts, or through good marketing results. So many people I see give up, just at that clinch point when they were probably just about to start to get traction, they give up. So do something that, for me, the most important thing is do something that you enjoy, that's easy, and that you can repeat. Because if you don't, and you stop and you get bored, or, you don't think it's working and you stop too early, that's often just about when you're about to get successful. It's so, I see it all the time from a marketing perspective.
I see it all the time from a business perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I certainly say to my clients all the time, it's like, don't experiment with anything that you're not willing to commit to for a year. It doesn't mean, it means you can try it for a short period of time. But if the idea of doing it for a year doesn't fill you with joy, don't even start it, because there's no point. Because I do think, because I see people rushing to try and get results in business the whole time, like rushing to exit, rushing to scale, rushing to achieve something by the time they're a certain age. And it sounds like it's exactly the same in the marketing space.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, if I'm not getting results inside of X, I'm stopping it.
Yeah, off I go. It is exactly the same. Business, marketing, same rules apply, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you're marketing a business most of the time, aren't you? So, but yeah, it's gutting, because, there's so many opportunities out there, but you've just got to keep going. And everyone is in for that short-term win. Everyone wants, like, oh, I've done a webinar, I expect leads the next day or the same day. And that does happen. If you've hit on the right subject, you've taken your go-to-market approach seriously, you've attracted the right people that potentially have the problems that you're trying to solve, then great, it does happen. I've done that many a time and been very successful, but more often than not, it doesn't happen like that. and you've got to get comfortable with that. Sometimes it feels like you're talking to a sea of nobody, but I've won a new client recently, and they engaged with me 2-3 years ago for the first time. That's how long the sales cycle often is, in terms of from the point of awareness through to an actual contract being signed.
Yes. Yeah, I had a client who reached out, had never interacted with any of my content, even a like.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen your stuff on LinkedIn. I was like, well, I had no idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's mad, isn't it? It happens all the time. Like, say, probably most of the people that we get opportunities with, I've never known, they're not fans of my content. Yeah. Never seen them engage with any of my content, but there they are, inquiring and becoming my client. So it's doing its job.
So then, when I talk to founders, it sounds like there are two things here. Like, one is, will I enjoy it? So it feels like, whether it's employee-generated content or this kind of personal brand or whatever the evolution of it was, there's certain things like, do I want to do this? Am I comfortable doing it? Will I enjoy it? What would you sort of say to that?
I have kind of two schools of thought on this, because I think everyone should do it. Mm-hmm. Because we're doing this whole series, actually, I'm a big believer, like, if you're not showing up, if you're not loud enough, someone else will be talking up and showing up and be louder, who maybe aren't even as good as you, but they're going to get picked just because they were louder than you. So I'm a kind of really big believer in, do show up and be loud, because if you're not going to get noticed. If you're not there, if you're not part of the game, you're not going to get picked. So that's a big thing for me. But I also understand that it's not comfortable for everyone. Not everyone wants to be, I'm quite loud and brash and happy to put myself out there. Not everyone is like that, and it doesn't feel comfortable for everyone. So I think if you're going to do it authentically. I've spoken to some really interesting people, actually, that I've interviewed I don't know if you've heard of Ash Jones. So he was sort of the man behind Stephen Bartlett. So him and I did a fireside chat at a social B2B conference. And he's quite introverted. It's not comfortable for him. He doesn't necessarily want to do it, but he's pushed himself to do it, and he does it in a way that's really authentic to him, and says, like, he'll be like, I'm quite introverted. This, don't necessarily love doing this, but I know the importance of doing it. So I think if you're going to do it, rather than showing up and being really awkward and like flustered, like, you're almost best to go up on stage and be like, I fucking hate doing this. I feel really awkward. And then straight away, like, the pressure's taken off, because you're like, if I mess up, it doesn't matter, because everyone knows that I feel awkward and I'm not natural at this. So I think personally, do the things that feel most natural, but try to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And if you do, own it and be really honest about who you are and that you feel awkward, because most people, unless you're me, a massive show off, most people feel quite awkward doing this kind of stuff. So to stand up and go, oh, I feel really awkward doing this, there's going to probably be like 70% of the audience that are going to go, oh my God, I really empathise with that. And even the people that don't empathise with it will be like, yeah, like, well done you for being honest and raw and real. So I think whatever you do, be really honest. Don't try and hide or pretend. Like, authenticity with all of this, personal brand, EGC, whatever you want to call it, is really important. Because if you're too scripted, if you're too people will see that, and that will come across worse.
But we talked about being EGC, not just the sort of founder brand. What if a founder didn't want to do it? Can there be EGC without the founder content, or do you think the founder almost has to be involved for the EGC content to be?
No, I think you don't need it. You don't need, especially, most of my clients, I don't even know who the founder is, because there's such, working with like really, really big brands like Contentful on these kind of go-to-market strategies. We've got nothing to do with the founder or the C-suite. We work with their marketing teams. So I think the world is changing, and, EGC and putting your people first, especially for huge companies that have got thousands of staff, it's a very different play. So I absolutely don't think it needs to be the founder. I think great if you have got a founder, because it's often interesting, and mostly probably founders are in that kind of extroverted group a lot of the time. But if it's not, then it's not. Choose the people that are going to represent the business in the best way. Don't worry about whether it's the founder or not.
Well, that probably comes back on something you mentioned quite early, this fear of what if that person leaves?
Yes.
So what would you say to that? So let's say you don't do as a founder, you empower 3 of your team to go, right, you're really the sort of the thought leaders, face on this, and then they leave.
Yes.
What now?
Yeah, it is a risk, right? Which is why you need to have more than one, I think, because let's hope, this stuff does happen, but very rarely that not all 3 people are going to leave at the same time. So I think that's that you've got to, and be real about it. Like, people do leave, like, employees are going to move on most of the time at some point, 5-10 year, that can be a really good, tenureship, but it doesn't necessarily happen that often. So I think you've just got to, spread your bets. And also, it's, often now, like, for me as a business, I know that's going to help them in their careers as well. Like, it's not just for them working for me and helping my business. I'm almost, encouraging my team to do it as, like, I know this is going to help them in their careers, and I want to give them that legacy, because I know how important it's been for me in my career. So I think you've got to take a bit of a step back and understand that probably will happen, and therefore empower more people to do it. I would love, not everyone is there in my team yet, but I'd love everyone in my team to be doing this, we go to lots of events, to go and record content with people, and give them the opportunity to put themselves forward. We have done it. I've got 2 of my team featured on our new website, should it go live hopefully soon. Been about a year and a half in the making. So yeah, I think you've just got to accept that that's going to happen.
So actually the sound decision is to really lean in on this and go, it's not just 3, it's ideal, let's say
everyone,
100%.
Yeah. Encourage everyone, yeah.
So what do you feel is realistic? Let's say if you're a fan listening to this going, okay, I'm bought into this concept. It can be me, it cannot be me. Maybe I'm interested, maybe I'm not. But of my company, what percentage of people could be generating EGC.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what kind of company you have, right? Like there are different, if you're all air flight attendants, then that's not going to necessarily be as relevant. But again, Virgin to a certain extent, or BA do take, they put their people first. That's you'll see the stewards and stewardesses. Is that what we say? We're not allowed to say hostesses anymore, are we? Anyway, but you'll see them, featured in their campaigns, in their slightly different, not as EGC generated, but that's often how people buy, because they buy people. You're not just buying the seat that you sat in. So I think for me, it depends what kind of business you are. If you're in my world, we're an agency, we provide a service, we're all in marketing, creative, events. All my team are quite, bold and out there. If I had a whole load of developers, they might not, if I was a bit more techie, then they may not want to, it might be slightly different. So I think you've got to think about your business. But my overarching thought on this is it's a bit like, it's your values and your business culture. Like it's a bit like saying everyone's in new business, everyone's in sales. If you adopt that culture and you encourage everyone in your business to think, right, okay, well, you're going to get a bonus if you introduce a new client, or think about the clients that you, for a service business like mine, think about the clients that you want to work with that would make your working day more fun. Who are the top? Let's go and try and win them. Like giving them the power to create their own. So I think it's about encouraging them in the right way, whether that's from a new business point of view and attracting new clients, whether that's saying, look, we're going to give you a platform. We're going to help you create content that not only is going to help us, but it's going to help you get pay rises. It's going to help you in your career moving forward. Like I would have loved that when I was younger. If my bosses had said to me, wherever I worked at the time, had said, Katie, we're going to give you this platform to go and record content, I'd have been like, yes, let's go. Like, that would have been good, because I know it's going to help me. Like it was going to help me get ahead in my career. So I think as long as you frame it in the right way, the right people will step forward. Not everyone. It's hard to put a percentage on it. For me, I want to show the brilliance of all of our team, but we're only small, like 10 people is different to 50 people, 100 people. You're not going to get 100 people, because you're going to have a lot more diversity in your team as well.
But what's interesting is it feels to me this slightly chimes with an organizational mindset of like really empowering your people. It's kind of the mindset, it's like a scarcity mindset going, I can't put my team out there for EGC because they might leave. I can't control what they'll say. It's a little bit sort of like, I need people in the office. I need to see where they are 8 till 5. I need to, this mindset of, I want to provide a legacy for my team. I want to give them sort of space to develop. I want to trust that they can present themselves in a way that aligns with my value. Like it very much feels about the sort of future way we're thinking about building businesses in terms of employee empowerment.
Yeah, it is actually, because, and look, not every business is like that. Like, I interview a lot of brands, and I interviewed one this morning actually. And, there's a lot of red tape. They're not allowed to talk about their trade secrets. They're not allowed to talk about the technologies that they use, because they don't want people, to gain competitive advantage. But not all businesses are like that. You take a gap, whereas some I speak to and they're like, do you know what? Yeah, we will share it all. And I'm talking big businesses like Burberry and people like that take a and there's reasons that they've got ahead, because they've got this culture of bravery and daring to try new things, to be different to the rest. And they've had some interesting things happen to them as a brand over the years, where it's become not as cool anymore, but they've overcome it because they've taken this, the culture is what's led them. So I do think we're going to see a lot of change. I think people are going to want a lot more authenticity. They're going to want, as we enter a world that is, and I love technology, I've worked with a lot of huge technology companies, I love AI, but as we enter a world that is going to become more and more led by computers, let's be honest, AI is only going to get smarter. The human, the power that we have as people is going to become ever more present, even though we can probably record a podcast without us recording a podcast. which is already we're already able to do that. I don't think yet, or not for a long time, are you going to get the authenticity and you can hear when it's a fake podcast compared to when it's a real one.
I totally agree. Like the stuff that AI can do even today compared to 6 months ago is crazy.
Mad, yeah.
I mean, who's to say we really are recording today's podcast?
Yeah.
Is it really us?
Yeah, you don't know, guys. You really won't know.
But where do you think the next step is then? So let's say EGC is starting out, someone's starting it. We move from consumer-generated content to employee-generated content. We're kind of empowering our team. Where are we on this in a year's time?
I think bigger businesses, it's going to be a slower burn. Like, we're at the starting point, but I think those that start early will get ahead a lot further and a lot quicker, because people want to engage with people. We are humans. We are in a world that we cannot trust as much. We don't know what's real, what's not real. So those that show up authentically in a very human, real way, to me, that's what will win, because you cannot take away from humans wanting to engage with humans. And that's why, the style of, TikTok videos, people very straight into camera, when the video feed on LinkedIn launched, that performed so well because people want to engage with people. TikTok, the rise of TikTok, if you look at the best content on there, it's not the polished content. Like, I know, Diary of a CEO and others and us producing lovely podcasts like this, but actually more often than not, if I look at the stats on my content, it's the unedited, raw stuff that actually does a lot better than the over-produced, stuff. Like, people want real. So I think those that start will get ahead further. And I do think it's going to be... I hope, we do a lot of events, but I think there's going to be a lot more to gain the real trust, the more AI comes in, and it may not be in a year's time, but over the next 5 years, events and in real life experiences are going to become even more important, because it's going to be very hard to tell what's real and what isn't real. And we're kind of already in that space. Like, content that I think is real isn't real. So I think as humans, the only thing that's going to be authentic, and God knows what happens in 10 years' time, but it's going to be, dinners, events. And I'm so glad that we have those as, we do actually record content at them as well. But that the biggest success metric that we see, or the biggest conversion metric from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead that we see is delivering events for our clients. And that is because we're putting people in front of people to have real life conversations about their problems, to build trust, to get empathy from each other. And that would probably be one of my biggest piece of advice to any founder, is start delivering in-person events, because you can't escape the reality of those, and you can't emulate in real life, relationships any better than you can at events and in real life. There's just no other comparison. So I think that for me is going to become more important.
What's interesting, I think, for me around that is that a lot of founders I deal with, kind of this sort of scale up, moving in from survival into scaling stage, a lot of them launched in and around COVID.
Yes.
And so there's been a lot of ingrained marketing habits based around the idea that you can't get in front of people.
Yes.
And it's kind of it's kind of weird how like meeting people in person doing events is kind of slightly revolutionary, and it's almost like so ingrained that you can't do business by meeting people that they haven't really had time to adjust. I don't know whether you see that at all.
Yeah, no, but I do get it. But I think most of our clients, come to us for our events. That's probably the service that brings people in the door. So, we deliver lead gen events. We run the whole go-to-market strategy. We get the prospects that they want in the room for them. We make those conversations happen. So most of my leads come to me from, through that. And we know that, put on an event, you're likely to book a handful of meetings off the back of it. And because you just can't, as much as you want to think the same will happen with a LinkedIn Live or a webinar, you just don't get the same results. But I can see it. My business grew in COVID. Like, I was 9 months old, I think, when COVID hit, and we kind of really scaled up because I started doing a webinar series on which we hosted, not on LinkedIn, but we promoted via email and LinkedIn on a monthly basis, called The New World of New Biz, to help people navigate what do we do now to attract and win new clients, because no one knew how to do it. And literally off the back of every webinar, I'd have a whole load of new business calls because they'd be like, oh, that was really helpful. Can you help us do that? Oh, yeah, we can actually. But yeah, we now do the same in the real world and we get much better results. So I think, yeah, it's a bit of a mindset change for those that haven't done it maybe. And it is more of an investment. You know, it costs thousands of pounds to put on a real life event most of the time. Costs virtually nothing to put on a webinar or a virtual event, but you don't get the connections, you don't get the engagement. People are, making a cup of tea, doing some work on their laptop, whatever they're doing whilst they're listening. They're not generally sat there. I mean, I don't know, do you attend webinars anymore?
Very, very rare.
Me neither. I might sign up to them and think, oh, that's interesting. And then even when I do sign up, I might listen for 5 minutes and be, oh, I'm bored now. I'm going to go do something else. Like, it's hard to keep our engagement where, the world's moved on. We either want short form content that is going to give us all the information we need in about 1 minute by watching a video, or we want to be engaged in real life at an event, talking to people and having conversations. So I think the one-way broadcast webinars and things just aren't, unless you're hosting kind of more virtual round tables where everyone's doing stuff together and workshopping something, that is a better ploy. It's hard to keep people's engagement. We've got very short attention spans now.
Yeah, I've got one screen here and potentially like 3 others.
I know. I can't even watch TV. I'm sat there with my phone. Like, literally, I have no attention span. It's so bad.
And then, okay, to finish then. So what is the one thing that you would, in terms of actioning this stuff? So someone listening to the podcast now, they're going, okay, I get it. I'm bought in. What do I do now?
What do they do? I think, well, looking at the overarching strategy, am I allowed to swear?
Go for it.
Make it fucking human. That's like my really big, piece. So they've bought into the make it fucking human. I know I need to make it human. I would, speak to your team, or you'll probably know a lot of the time, who are the people that we could put forward to talk about the things that matter, and develop a strategy that feels right for your business to start creating content on a regular basis that you'll be able to continue with. And I think a big part is testing and learning as well. The thing that you do, don't worry about it being perfect. Just fucking do it. Just literally just do it. I think that would probably actually be my biggest piece of advice. It doesn't need to be perfect. You don't have to hire a podcast studio. The best videos that I've recorded have probably been in my bedroom on my phone. Just try it. Do something. Don't expect it to be perfect. In fact, it's probably better if it isn't perfect, but just get started. Because I think what happens most of the time in business is we procrastinate, we worry, you should know, if you're running a business, you'll know how you help people, what you do. Just give it a go. Get started.